Hello everyone, so welcome to another video. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to start a new series where I'll try and determine whether for me it's better to play the Sicilian Can with the c5 or Philidor with d6 type of pawn structure with e5. The Sicilian Can is with c5 and e6. And if I'm going to get white pieces, I'm going to try and see whether the c4 and knight c3 plan with the Botvinnik is better for me than e4 and knight c3 Vienna. So I'll start like a new series. I will play at least like 10 games each in each opening and determine what is the best option for me. After the series concluded, then I'm going to return back to learning the Jobava system and learning the Philidor. So as you can tell, I'm more experienced in playing the Sicilian responses, and I'm also more experienced in playing Vienna and probably even Botvinnik. Let's see what pieces we are getting today. We are getting white pieces for the third time in a row, so I'll just double check. And we will start with the Botvinnik system. Let's move this up a little bit. The opponent is playing something like a reverse Sicilian, which is fine. Today we have one of the stronger opponents than we faced before, which is he's 1174. So in Botvinnik we are always trying to control the d5 square first. We are going to develop the bishop to put more control in the center. Kind of looks like if you are playing Sicilian dragon, but usually you get quite a nice hold of the central squares, and the knight usually goes to e2. I used to like to play with the option e4, but these days I also realize that I can play it more flexible and play a move like e3, which allows me then to strike in the center after I've finished my development. The opponent will try and keep his bishop on this long diagonal, and we are going to continue with our development. They castle. I believe we should castle as well before we start any actions in the center. And I believe it's quite likely that we are going to strike with d4 next. We have lovely control with the over the d5 push. So after rook e8. Yes, we are going to be opening the e file for our opponent, but we will also be opening our bishop for journey to g5 and then potentially knight d5 and ruin the pawn structure for black. So it looks like we might have some advantage already. And if I would be black, I would not advise him to go to stay on this diagonal. So now we are opening the e file for the opponent, but in the future this could be also used for us. And I believe since the bishop is here, this move gives us also a tempo. So the black piece is I'm playing bishop b4, which is understandable. But then again, I feel like we can force the trade of the bishop after playing a move like a3. But with regard to playing bishop g5, he will always have the move h6, and for us take in and queen f6 doesn't seem to make much sense. And pushing this knight with a move like d5 doesn't also seem to be the best move on the cards. So we need to come up with a with a plan, because even though our position seems to be better, I don't think it's that far from equality for black. Also, we need to keep in mind when we play a3, the b3 square is going to become much weaker. So if we decide to push, for example, the pawn to d5, the knight goes here attacking this pawn. When we play b3, sometimes black can have a move like a4, undermining our pawn structure here. But as long as we have a knight on c3, I don't think that's going to be much of a danger. And with regards to pushing d5, you don't want to do this, as you want to keep the long diagonal to yourself. And I always have seen like slight drawbacks to this system, no matter how I play this. And I can see it even now, so I always prefer a little bit of Vienna. That's why I decided to make this this series of kind of matches to find out what will be best suited for my playstyle. But yes, I probably make it sound like I already know the result. I'm also asking a question whether it makes sense to play bishop g5, let the bishop get kicked, then take on f6, queen f6, knight to d5. If that kind of position is looking good for me, because the knight cannot do much from the d5. I believe move like rook e1 could be useful before we go through the but before we do anything else, we will ask a question to that bishop anyway. So it's going to be a trade. So with all this pondering, I've lost 4 minutes on the clock. My opponent is still on his initial time with the 10 seconds increment. But now they're starting to think a little bit more. The issue is if I play rook e1 now, I'm losing touch with the d4 pawn. So in general it will be difficult to keep those pieces there. b6. b6 is actually an interesting move, which might allow me to play d5 and d6. What I don't really like is to let the knight go onto e5 square. But then again, I haven't got much choice there. My feeling is since the bishop wants to go to a6 or b7, then maybe to play rook b1. But after rook b1, bishop a6, it's a question. I think I actually found a nice solution to my problems for the minute. I'm going to play bishop f4, and the idea is to play knight b5, to which you cannot play d6, you would be losing the knight. To bishop c6, so now I have like a nice pressure on these diagonals. And the rook is going there, which is also nice. So we can go with our plan of knight b5. Rook is sort of misplaced there. Now the knight is protecting the d4 square. We might be able to go with the plan of d5 and d6. But I think I prefer the most rook e1 plan, as the knight is protecting here, so I don't worry so much about black's chances in this position. So when the c6 is played, I will play knight to d4, and black is just dropping a pawn. Black has just dropped a pawn with this push, because now if I take here, he has to take with the queen. If he takes with the knight, then I'm already winning the pawn on d5. So we are going to trade the rooks. Knight takes back. And now we have the pleasant option to play bishop d5 or c takes d5. And I believe we want to play c takes d5 here. So the knight will have to move, and then we have a move like d6. Or we can simply protect the pawn. So knight a7 has been played. So yes, whilst he's challenging our knight, I think best is to drop our knight backwards. So we keep the pressure and keep this knight misplaced, and we still have the pawn to d6 move if we need in the future. So I think we just simply retreat the knight and keep the pressure. Keep the pressure in their court. The central pawn that we have extra is not worth much because I believe that that could be recaptured eventually. Knight on d6 is a nice blockading move. But now I believe our queen is free to move. Shall we say develop? And I think there's no better square than to go to e2 and start piling up on the e file. So we will go to e2. If knight to b5 is not going to work because we are there enough time. So black may want to develop that bishop on d7. If c5 is played, that is simply dropping another pawn, and I believe this is just winning the game on the spot, because now with the two central pawns, this is gonna be over. So if you know the move, you can let me know in the comments. It's a quite simple move, to be honest. Although there's still going to be lots of play left in the position. And the move is simply en passant. Why was this lighting up? So we have two pawns, and black has some dangerous activity still. So what we need to do is to focus on our development. Queen d3 doesn't quite work for bishop f5. But after bishop f5, we can play queen a6 and start putting pressure from there. Yes, and I believe that's quite a good move. So the queen is attacked, so we will play queen d3, and if bishop f5, we go queen a6, and then we are going to threaten knight to d5. If bishop c8 again, so we need to avoid a repetition. Just need to double check. I still want to go with queen d3 because bishop f5, yes, it's going to be attacked. If bishop f5 again, then queen d1. I just want to know. probably better not to allow bishop f5 at all. But what I can do is to pretend that I want to be attacking on king side as well with queen h5. So the queen here. Which would still keep under control the key square for b5. The issue is we will not be able to house our queen maybe on f6, but rook a6. Yeah, we are going to play this because it's more active move. Oh, but it's not a good move. Like maybe if black plays g6, then we can go back to d1. I just realized that what I wanted to play with the queen on f6, after g6, queen h4, knight f5, queen f6, that would be dropping a queen to rook e1 check. So I need to simply, or maybe I don't need to retreat the queen actually, I can keep the queen still on g5. But I need to consider what happens if black plays f6, because I definitely cannot take on f6, and queen h6 would be trapping my own queen. So after f6 I still have a queen d5 move. And queen d5 actually works here too, because I'm putting pressure on this knight here. The queen is well protected, so I think queen h5 was probably a best choice in this position, because I'm keeping still lots of pressure on this knight now. Even though I was planning to play my own knight onto d5. But that is fine. It's actually going to be very difficult for black to protect the knight, because the queen behind the knight is being attacked. So basically in this position, I believe that there was some certain equality in the position, but after black played d5 and knight a7, that's where I got the advantage, and now it seems that that advantage is gonna pay off. So what we're gonna do now, the rook is here. We would like to attack the rook if possible. Our queen can no longer be attacked, which is the positive thing. And I definitely feel like if we play bishop h3, black will be forced to play f5. It's still not clear what to do. Some of the rook e1s are still very dangerous for us, because we could still get possibly checkmated. I could probably try knight to e4, put more pressure on the knight. But then he's got knight to b5. If I hit the knight, then he's got knight to c7. So I'll probably just push the pawn forward and try and protect this pawn. He plays f5, which is a bit of a concession, because then I can probably pin the king, or I can definitely trade the queens now. I have only 25 seconds left, and that's a bit of a problem. So now we need to play fast, super fast if possible. I'm going to play against that rook, but it has to be done super fast. There's no other way. With 28 seconds, I need to be quick. I'm gonna put pressure here. The rook has to go to e7 or e8. We have a complete bind of that, on that position, which is great. If the rook goes to e8, we are winning the queen with bishop h6 and bishop g5. We just need to play quick at this stage. Actually, we are close to checkmating. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to repeat the move. I'm going to play rook e1. The only defense is knight to e4. Oh no, it's not. Oh my gosh, I just dropped the rook. I played too quick at that stage. My bad. But I'm up to a minute and yeah, given up to the time pressure that I have created myself. So it's a shame. It's a shame. I completely forgot when I played rook e1. But there is still a chance to do something about this. I totally missed the king f6. I should have just taken the queen and it would be game over. Still going to go after checkmate. I think I have bishop g8 and knight d5 could be actually delivering the checkmate, so not a big deal. Knight to e4. So yes, I think queen to f7 will be delivering a checkmate, so I'm going to not to worry about knight to e4. And knight d5 should win the queen, because after knight d5 knight d5, is that a checkmate? Whew. So sometimes when you are under pressure, you might forget some little things, and that's what happened to me in this game. But when the position was like so, I was threatening one checkmate here and the other checkmate here. Basically, the bishops are taking all the dark squares, the pawns are taking dark and light squares, and the knight just needed to take these two remaining squares where the king could go. So I couldn't see a defense to both of these threats of queen f7 and knight d5. So it was most likely that black is going to drop some pieces. So I didn't care if knight c3 because I still have queen f7. I hope you enjoyed this game. So it's 1-0 for the Botvinnik system, but obviously there's still have to be played games in Vienna. So the next game will be Vienna if we have white pieces. And as I said, with black pieces, we are going to try Khan Sicilian or Philidor's defense. So I'll probably, if opponent plays something else, then e4 in the first move, I will try and attempt the Philidor types of position with the Philidor type of development, which goes something like this, and castles. And then we will see if the Philidor is better than a Sicilian Khan for myself. I feel like in this game there was, that equality, like that came quite early, and then we got slight advantage. Then obviously I messed up towards the end, but we still got lucky, like in our first game. But there are certain things that will be apparent from the Vienna opening. I believe that's where I'm more confident and I have more flexibility. So anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time.